Hello, Mastermind Gaming community, and in today's video, I will be going over the basics of the real-time strategy game Age of Mythology. I have visited some forums online, and there have been a few requests for an introduction style video to the game, and one that is a little more recent than others. I'm going to do my best to explain the basics and core concepts of Age of Mythology in a way that hopefully will be easy to understand and grasp the basic concepts of for this game. If you have any further questions that aren't covered in these videos, feel free to let me know down below in the comments section and I would be more than happy to help and answer them to the best of my ability. I am not a super competitive player, I want to get that out there right now, but just someone who enjoys playing RTS games in a casual sense. So while I won't be the most optimized player out there, I understand the concepts enough to hopefully transfer some of that knowledge to you, and without further ado, let's get into part 1. Like many other real-time strategy games, Age of Mythology is based on building towns, gathering resources, creating armies, and ultimately destroying enemy units and buildings. In this way, players are able to defeat and conquer rival towns and civilizations. Players advance through their civilization through ages, starting in the Archaic Age. The player may upgrade to the Classical Age, Heroic Age, and then finally the Mythic Age. Each upgrade to a higher age unlocks new units and technologies for that player, which strengthens their town. Conversely, upgrading requires a large amount of resources to be paid and certain buildings to be built. There are currently 5 playable cultures in Age of Mythology: the Greeks, Egyptians, Norse, Atlantean, and Chinese. Each culture contains 3 civilizations, based around a major god, such as Zeus, Ra, or Odin. The player chooses a major god before the game begins. Then every time they advance to the next age, they choose between 2 minor gods, such as Bast or Hel. These gods are generally less significant deities in their respective mythos than the major ones. All gods have unique god powers, special spell-like abilities that typically damage an opponent or benefit the caster in some way, plus unique technologies and myth units depending on who you worship. There are 5 major resources in Age of Mythology to keep track of. 4 of those resources can be gathered in some way: food, wood, gold, and favor. Unlike in previous Age of games, if you've played any of those, these resources are chiefly used to train units, construct buildings, and research technologies. Civilian units, namely the Greek villagers, Norse gatherers and dwarves, the Egyptian laborers, Atlantean citizens, and the Chinese peasants and fishing ships, are used to gather resources. These worker units can gather food by hunting animals, gathering berries, harvesting livestock, farming, and fishing. Wood is gathered only by chopping down trees, and gold can be gathered by mining at gold mines or from trade markets later in the match. Players can research technologies that increase the rate of gathering these resources. Favor is acquired in a different way depending on which culture you're playing. Greek players gain favor by having villagers pray at temples. Egyptians earn them by building monuments. Norse players receive it by fighting as well as having heroes. Atlanteans by town center possession, and Chinese by having gardens. Resources can then be exchanged at a player's market in later ages. In the next part of this video, we will be explaining each game mode in a little bit more detail so you can understand what each game mode is and how they differ. The very first and most popular game mode is Supremacy. Now, Supremacy is probably the most popular game mode and is a core concept that this game was built around for multiplayer gameplay. In Supremacy, you start with limited resources and you must build a kingdom from scratch, worship gods to advance through the ages, balance resources to upgrade technology, and produce both a military and citizens to help keep your empire growing and to overpower your enemy. When you begin to play against other players, most players will end up resigning after you eliminate most of their army, but if they refuse to do so even after you destroy their base, there are a few key ways you can win by default. The main way would be to capture all town centers on the map. After you do so, they will only have a few minutes to attempt to take one over from you, and if they cannot do so, they will automatically lose. Another option is to win by wonder. A wonder is a building that you can build in the Mythic Age and can take a while to build. However, once it is built, a timer will start on the screen, and if your opponent cannot destroy the wonder within that given time limit, they will automatically lose as well. The next game mode that does relate quite a bit to Supremacy is called Conquest. Conquest is related to Supremacy in a lot of ways, however the only way you can win this mode is to eliminate all enemy troops and villagers. You cannot win with a wonder, nor by capturing all town centers. You have to eliminate all enemy forces on the map. Because of the length some people will go just to hide villagers to prolong a match when they are clearly defeated, this is not a popular game mode you will find online. Another popular game mode that you will definitely find online is Deathmatch. Deathmatch is a popular game mode online because it skips all the slow parts of the game by jump-starting your economy with a large influx of resources such as 15,000 of all main resources in 100 favor. You also are able to instantly upgrade through the ages as soon as building requirements are met to advance. After this, you play it like a supremacy match, where you try to overpower your opponent, but at an increased rate due to this mode having a completely unique early game and other factors that speed up the fighting of the game. Lightning mode is played just like a normal supremacy match, however the game just plays at double speed, so it's like a universal speed buff for everything in a match. This is not a popular game mode as the game is already rather quick paced and fast whenever you start to learn the game and get more experienced. Most matches will be within the 15 to 20 minute mark on normal, with long games being around 30 minutes at most, so for an RTS game that is not out of the realm of insanity. This is not played in any sort of capacity in multiplayer, so I will not be going into any more detail about this. While there is a lot of more intricate details about each game mode, I will not be going into them into this video just to keep the video length down. However, I will be making a separate video for each game mode explaining what the differences actually are in a lot greater detail. So if you guys are interested in those, make sure you guys subscribe, and I will be releasing those videos here in the near future, so keep an eye out for those. In the next section of this video, we will be looking and discussing about unit types. Age of Mythology is essentially a war game, so in addition to civilian units, you must also train a variety of military units to succeed. The three main groups are human units, which are more or less historically accurate to a certain degree, along with divinely inspired heroes and monstrous myth units such as the Sphinx and the Cyclops. Each of these units takes up a set number of population slots. Civilians take 1, while some myth units can take up to 5. Players start with a limited number of population slots and can then build houses in town centers to acquire more. Most units can be upgraded, making them better at certain tasks. Units can be subclassified into 7 different categories, including infantry, archers, cavalry, siege weapons, ships, heroes, and myth units. The rock, paper, scissors model often applies to units in battle. In general lines, infantry are best against cavalry, cavalry are best against archers, and archers are best against infantry. The same applies with the 3 different types of warships: arrow ships, siege ships, and hammer ships. Heroes are extremely effective against myth units, which in turn are devastating to human units, who in sufficient numbers can overwhelm heroes. Siege weapons, meanwhile, are best at destroying buildings. Heroes are also able to collect relics, which grant the player additional economic or military bonuses when garrisoned in the player's temple. While playing Age of Mythology, you will find many civilizations will have unit types that break a lot of these molds. This is a core concept that should just be remembered. An easy way to remember it is to think that horses can close the gap on archers faster, and also causing them to miss more attacks, whereas the foot soldiers move much slower, allowing archers to fire more volleys into them before they are reached. The infantry can hold the line as the cavalry charge into them and are able to win with spears and other superior weapons that the riders can't use. If you aren't sure what a unit does, you can always left-click on a unit in the game and then right-click the portrait that comes up to get a detailed description of what that unit does. In the next part of this series, we're going to be looking at buildings. Buildings in Age of Mythology can generally be split into 3 categories. Do you notice a pattern? Economic buildings, military buildings, and defensive structures. The most important economic building is the town center. All worker units are trained at the town center, as are some vital technologies. Most importantly, players advance through the ages at this building. The town center provides 15 population slots, and building additional houses will earn the player 10 additional slots per house with a max of 10 houses. Other economic buildings include the farm and market. All military units are trained at military buildings. These buildings differ in name and usage between cultures, but all are able to train similar units. Military buildings are used to research military-specific technologies such as armor upgrades and attack improvements. Walls and towers are defensive structures. Units cannot be trained at them, and they are used only for defense and researching pertinent technologies that relate to them. As in the other games, a wonder is a grand building that represents the pinnacle of architectural achievement. In certain game modes, once a player builds a wonder, a 10-minute countdown begins. If the wonder is still standing after the countdown ends, the player who built the wonder wins. This is going to be wrapping up the first part of the Age of Mythology New Player Introduction series. I hope that this video has helped you gain a firmer grasp on Age of Mythology and things to look out for, as well as a brief touch on most aspects of the game. There will be a more detailed video coming soon, so make sure you stay tuned for more, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you make sure you don't miss it, as this is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the knowledge you can possess to conquer your enemies in Age of Mythology. I will see you guys in the next episode.